Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and today's video is going to be about breaking down moneymakers. Some of the points that I'll make here are going to go back to ideas that we have discussed, like collecting your own supplies, or the fact that not all profit is created equal. The overall goal is to hopefully spread some useful information about choosing a moneymaker and how to make sure that you're making the most cash out of that moneymaker. I'm going to start with two different money-making examples. These methods will involve multiple steps in some way, and those parts of the moneymakers is what we'll be breaking down. My first example will be one of my favorite skilling moneymakers, the Blast Furnace. The Blast Furnace is generally a pretty low requirement moneymaker that has very high potential for players at really any level. To make the best money at the Blast Furnace, I always suggest getting the coal bag from the Motherlode mine, as it basically doubles your profit per hour. In the process of getting the coal bag, you are going to get some ores from the Motherlode mine, which is kind of a bonus since you can use those ores to get started at the Blast Furnace instead of buying your own. Since you don't have to buy ores if you mine them first, a lot of players would consider mining your own ore first to be bonus cash, but that is not the case. It is true that if you start with 1 mil cash, spend it all on ores, smelt it into bars, then you'll have less money at the end if you didn't spend the 1 mil cash and instead mine the ore yourself. You would be selling the same amount of bars afterward and still have that original 1 mil if you didn't spend it on ores, but you gotta take into consideration how much time you spent mining that ore. The ores were not bonus cash. The only reason that I would consider the first bit of ores a bonus is because you're grinding out the coal bag. Overall, it's worth your time to get that coal bag for the Blast Furnace, so it's a little bit more of unique situations. Even if you got 0 ores from the coal bag, it would still be worth going for it for that Blast Furnace grind. So those ores are actually bonus cash in that case. But since you are making more money when you're at the Blast Furnace, every hour that you spend at Motherlode Mine, you are wasting some time unless you haven't gotten that coal bag yet. With the coal bag, you can expect at least 500k an hour depending on what bar you're making and how fast you're going at the furnace. This is with even less than 60 smithing and paying the foreman. You could still get like half a mil an hour from steel bars, maybe even more like 300 or 400k right out the gate. At the Motherlode mine, you're going to max out at like 300k to 350k GP an hour. If you spent 10 hours at the Motherlode mine, then 2 to 3 hours to smith those bars, we could estimate maybe 3 mil from Motherlode and up to 1.5 mil from the Blast Furnace for a total of 4.5 mil in 12 to 13 hours. If you spent those entire 12 to 13 hours on the Blast Furnace instead, you'd get more like 6 to 6.5 mil GP in profit. When you actually break down the moneymaker, even very simply like this, it can be very obvious that adding those extra Motherlode mine steps is a waste of time when it comes to purely talking about profit per hour. If at this point this seems like common knowledge to you, that is good news. You already are likely doing a good job at choosing your moneymaker and getting the most out of them. I do very commonly hear from people trying to get this bonus money, like mining their own ores for instance, and this is the kind of concept you need to be thinking about when choosing that moneymaker. For example number 2, I am heading over to sharks, both fishing and cooking them. When you're fishing minnows, you can get around 500 raw shark per hour, and this can change depending on your fishing level and how AFK you are, but 500 shark per hour is a pretty good estimate. Sharks tend to have a long-term fluctuation. They go from like 500 coins a piece to over 1,000, and then maybe back down to 500 coins a piece, and this usually takes a few months, kind of depending on the time of year and how many players are online. Like summer breaks and winter breaks tend to have more players than during the school year, for instance. Currently, they are at about the 500 coin a piece mark, which makes them at a low, but still being about 250k GP an hour. You could then go cook your shark for even more profit. You can cook around 1,250 shark an hour, again, depending on your cooking level and how AFK you are. The profit from a cooked shark is just over 100 coins at the moment, but would have to be around 200 coins a piece to reach that 250k an hour number that you got just while fishing minnows. This means to make the most money from this method, you really just only want to fish minnows and then sell the raw shark, not cook them afterwards. Since, just like with the Motherlode mine and Blast Furnace option, if you spent all of that time fishing sharks rather than cooking, you're going to end up with more money in the long run. In this case, it is the opposite of how Motherlode mine and Blast Furnace went. With the Motherlode mine, you made less money collecting the ores than you did actually doing the Blast Furnace side of things, but with fishing, it looks like you're making more money right now collecting the fish than you are producing them into cooked fish. It's always worth checking the moneymakers and actually breaking them down and seeing which part of the moneymaker is the most money currently before you sit down and do it for a long time. When it comes down to money-making methods that can have multiple steps on them, there's always going to be one step that makes more money than the rest of them. It is possible that 2 of the steps make the exact same amount of money, but even then, you could just choose one of those steps and only do that for your moneymaker. For sort of a third example, I do hear players very often say that they use some of the supplies they get as PVM drops to try to go make more money, like cooking the raw fish, smelting the ores, maybe cleaning the herbs. This still abides by the same exact rule though. If the combat moneymaker is a better moneymaker than the other options, then you should just sell the supplies as is and not use them for extra money. Again, this is only if your one goal of the moneymaker is making money. If all that's on the table is you needing GP, then your focus should be on GP per hour for whatever you're working on. Overall, I could bring up even more examples of how adding steps doesn't add money, but I'm hoping at this point you're starting to get the point. There are some positives when it comes down to adding steps to your moneymakers and not breaking it down, just doing the one thing. First of all, it gives you a variety of things to do. Anytime you get bored of the blast furnace, you could potentially go to the Motherlode mine for a little bit. You get some AFK time, change of scenery. You start getting mining XP, which is a good mix of gains. And overall, when you're done, you'll then have ores to go back to the blast furnace. This goes with fishing minnows too. If you cook the sharks, it'll change things up a bit. And overall, if you're doing the same activity over and over again and you find that it's getting boring, you're going to end up not doing it anymore and not making any money. So sometimes changing things up is a good thing. And again, in this case, if you were to go cook the shark after you fish them, you do get some cooking XP. So if you currently need cooking XP for whatever reason, it can still be worth it. This really does just come down to if you're trying to make the most money per hour, you should not add steps to your money makers. Here are the main points that I would like you to take away from this video. Don't just check what your final profit is going to be and call it good. Keep in mind that the amount of time it takes to get to that final profit clearly matters too. If you're looking to make the most money per hour, it's normally best to keep it simple. Don't add steps and don't try to save money by adding time, and get rid of the idea of bonus money. When you're looking to make cash, you just want to break your money makers down to the simplest points. I have this amount of money, I buy item A, turn it into item B, sell it back. How long did it take? How much money will I make from it? If you can turn item B into item C now, don't add it on to the first step just to test how much money it makes. Go back through the process that you just did with items A and B. You have this much money, you buy item B, you turn it into item C, you sell it back. How long is it going to take? How much money is it going to make? Whichever of those individual, either A to B or B to C, whichever one makes more money, you really just want to do that one if you're only trying to make money. Any tradable item can easily be looked at as just its money value. This concept can be used when it comes to saving time on supply collecting in general. If you need 1,000 sharks, you don't need to go fish 1,000 sharks, obviously. You can instead do a better moneymaker and buy the sharks, taking less time. So you don't have to think, oh man, you can only get 500 sharks per hour when you go to catch minnows. No, you could go fight a boss that makes you a few mil per hour and then you get a lot more sharks out of it. If you need to collect a slow tradable item like that, you can always just go make a ton of money and buy it faster, unless of course you're an Iron Man, but then this whole discussion video probably doesn't fit for you. This concept is not a very complicated one, so the goal of this video is not to teach some new mechanics that you've likely never heard of. The goal was just to make sure that you keep all of this in mind when you're choosing how to make cash. When you're saving up for expensive items, like a twisted bow for instance, you want to add some efficiency to your moneymakers so that it doesn't take forever, and the concept of breaking down your moneymakers can be pretty important for that. This is a discussion video which so far is very one-sided. If you're just watching the vid, since it's just me blabbing on about money-making methods, continue the discussion below in the comments section if you have any questions or opinions about the topic. Thank you very much for watching this discussion video, everyone. If you enjoyed the video or just got some useful information out of it, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I do stream on Twitch, which should be linked on the screen and in the description. I'm also on Twitter and have a Discord, which are also linked in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and best of luck on your money-making grinds.